if you have these positions, I think they should be front and center. And so I'm going to declare them right now.
It makes absolutely no sense. It's absolutely not sustainable.
I am kind of sick of, our military being the butt of a joke.
This is the Big Five on the Elias Macco Show, brought to you by investment advisor Richard Lapointe of CIBC Wood Gundy. Richard Lapointe can always be reached at 847-6324.
You put your life into a company, your blood, your sweat, your tears, 30 years, 40 years into one company. Then they go bankrupt and you lose your pension. Is that right? I don't think so. Well, Quebec government's going to do diddly squat about it. Just one of the things we'll talk about on the Big Five. And as we kick this off, I'd like to say hello to who's on the Big Five this morning. Dave Kaufman's smiling, so he gets the first hello. Hi, Dave.
Good morning, Elias.
And Trudie Mason, it wasn't a scowl. It wasn't a scowl, but there was just no smile.
Sorry.
It was like, it's not the passport office, Trudie. You don't have to keep a reserved face.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry. I don't know. Don't worry about me.
Good morning, Elias.
Wow.
Love you, Trudie. Okay, guys, you ready to talk?
Sure.
You ready to play?
Let's
play. My vignette. Let's just talk about my personal problems.
Sure.
Ville-Marie Borough is increasing the cost of vignettes. And this is going to hit me in the pocketbook. My current vignette, and I moved a few months ago, and I got the vignette for the year, and it was $52 Canadian dollars. And the new vignette for next year will be for my same vehicle, $250. My sin is the liters, the size of my engine is 3.5 liters on my vehicle, which is 3.5 liters and up. Doesn't matter if you've got these behemoths that are 5.6 or 6-liter engines, same thing, you're paying $250. It also applies, by the way, to that family of, 2 parents and 3 kids that all have to get into a Grand Caravan. They're going to see an increase that's $200, right? It's a 500% increase. On the counter side, city says, you know what? Parking isn't free, folks. We clean those spots. Spaces are limited. We're putting a cost, and also the environment. Your bigger engines, they take up more gas and so on and so forth. So what are your thoughts here? Is this a cash grab, or is it, reason, thoughtful, pro-environment rationale here?
Well, I suppose you could argue that it could have been worse.
How?
Well, first of all, the vignette prices according to the city's release, haven't been raised since 1989.
Yeah.
So I think it was about time that there was going to be an increase. I would have thought that a green administration like Mayor Plante would have actually paid the drivers of electric cars to park on the street, because they're so saintly that they should be on display for free for all to, see and aspire to.
They're getting a 200% increase. It's going from 50 to 100.
They're going to have to pay too. And I think that is a recognition that your car may be running on electricity or it may be a hybrid, but there is still a cost to maintaining the roads you drive on. So I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised that Mayor Plante didn't go that route. And the numbers could have been higher because, let's take a gigantic step back and think globally. Can anyone in Montreal who can afford to buy a car, plate a car, insure a car, and put gas in a car, can they claim poverty? Because I don't think so, especially if you're living downtown and you're paying the rents that are or the mortgages that you need for a downtown lifestyle.
Sure, on the corner of like Peel and St. Catherine, but I mean, there are parts of the Ville-Marie Borough that are not that well off. Look at where we are, Trudie. This is the Ville-Marie Borough. Go up the street to St. Catherine, go up the street to de Maisonneuve. It's not a wealthy area around here.
Well, so there also are, $250,000 to $500,000 condos being built up the street. So it's sort of hard to tell. I think 1989, the point that Trudie made that this hasn't been changed since I was 8 years old is a huge, huge factor in this. And I understand that it's going to affect some people, but I think, once again, we have to look at the overall. I appreciated hearing Tom Mulcair's comments this morning on Andrew Carter's show, saying that this is a necessary evil. This is something that should have been done a long time ago, and that he applauds the administration for doing it. I think that this is a move towards the future, and perhaps it can disincentivize people to buy big cars.
But $200 for a family who's not rich that's had the same caravan for 10 years, and they're going to pay.
Mayor Plante says that there will be a low income rate of the
Okay.
lowest rate, which means they'll be paying $100.
Okay.
Which I think it out in the burbs where I live in the city of Montreal, borough of Pierrefonds, it costs me more than you're paying to get my driveway shoveled by a contractor every winter. So, you own a car. There are costs. This is something that car owners have to accept. And I will not accept a plea of poverty from anyone who can afford to keep these days a car on the road.
And when it costs $3 an hour to park on St. Catherine Street downtown or more, depending on the time of day, you're looking at 75 cents a day on average. You're $2.50.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the quick math in my head, and it's not exact, but
Yeah.
I mean, you're paying under $1 a day to park your car.
I'm simply thinking of families that are already struggling to make ends meet, and now they've got to have, it's $200 more for them in certain cases. Like if they don't qualify for this low income, they're middle class, so they don't qualify for the low income. It's $200 more in one shot. I agree that, if something hasn't been raised since 1989, things should go up.
Well,
but I do think it is a whopper.
Yeah, but they've been getting a bargain for probably
years.
more than a decade.
Yeah, for 30 years.
Really the rate should have risen, I would say, after one decade.
So every parking spot, there should be a cost to it. Isn't that a case you're making here? Every single parking spot that we take for granted, there should be a cost attached to it, like what they've done in Outremont?
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I think that it's part and parcel with owning a car is knowing that it's going to cost you to park it. And frankly, I know that I've heard the argument this morning about parking indoors, and this prohibits those who can afford to park indoors. It's a lot more expensive to park indoors.
I would say
a lot. I mean, at a new condo, you could be paying like $25,000 just for the parking space.
Yeah, I agree, though, that there should be a city charge only when there's scarcity. The city brought in those residents, reserved stretches of streets, basically when the residents stopped being able to find street parking. And so you're getting an extra service from the city. We're saying that, the city is saying we're going to spend money on signs and regulate with a vignette system so that you get a reserved place, like, I'll put reserved in quotation marks because you're not guaranteed a space. It's just set aside for residents. But out in the burbs, out in Pierrefonds, in most neighborhoods, not all, but most neighborhoods, there's plenty of parking.
I just feel this is an example of them, and I can eat this. It's fine for me personally. I'm not concerned, but I'm thinking about how the city once again is pointing a finger directly at car owners. And there's so many other bad things for the environment, but they just keep going on this one thing.
Yeah, but that number keeps going up, Elias. We have more and more cars on the road right now. People are they're not changing their habits, and perhaps I don't think this is enough. I don't think this is enough for people to change their habits. And I don't think it should be $1,000 either. But I think that this will help. In the long run. And
I've said it on the show for people who complain about the city making changes with lanes, that kind of stuff. What do you want to happen? We can't just have more and more cars. So I get that.
Buy a Civic like me, Elias.
Buy a Civic. There you go. Or an electric car.
The top stories in the city. The Big Five on the Elias Macco Show.
All right, we're back here on the Big Five. Dave Kaufman and Trudie Mason in studio with me this morning. Let's get to the blood, sweat, and tears, okay? I find this is a very serious topic. I have heard it, by the way, when we talk about other things. I've had people text this show and say, I was with Sears, I lost my pension. People, you can imagine being somewhere there for 25 years, and you're saying, well, I always got my pension. Like I'm going to have my pension. The company goes under, and you lose it all. And it's happened. It's not just, say Sears. It's happened time and time again, right? You pay into a company, you give that company everything, and then by natural reasons, there you go. You lose your pension. There have been people pressuring the Quebec government to do something about it with an insurance system for companies, right? So every company, you offer a pension, pay a little portion into an insurance system. So if that company goes under, the pension can survive, and those people who are under that pension plan are made whole. The province has said, we're not going to do it. It's another cost for business. It's too onerous, and it's just not the right decision. What do you think?
I'm saddened by this. The only thing I can think, if I'm looking for a silver lining on this, is if we care about our fellow man, and I'm not 100% sure that we do, but if we do, then this is an election issue. This is something that could affect the CAC's chances of re-election.
Really?
I think so. Only if we have empathy. Because this is something, like you said, this could happen to anybody who works for anyone. And I mean,
they don't have it anywhere else, though. I mean, this would be like another example of Quebec,
of Quebec socialism.
Yeah, Quebec socialism going first. And I guess the CAQ government is not going to be that government.
No.
To do something quote unquote anti-business.
I thought Ontario had
something?
some
Okay.
type of protection, because they were talking about how the Sears workers on the Gatineau side got shafted, but the Sears workers across the river in Ottawa had no pension reduction. So,
then what is the excuse, right?
Well, yeah, the excuse is the CAQ government is all business all the time, and they're not going to agree to something that's going to increase the cost of doing business. I think, though, that it would be completely manageable, after a certain number of years, because it doesn't really happen all that often.
Mm-hmm.
So after a certain number of years, the contributions business would have to make into an insurance scheme for pensions would be able to decline.
That's what happens with employment insurance, right? They adjust the rates based on how much money is in the fund, right?
And I think the only possible drawback I could think is unscrupulous business managers might be more tempted to cook the books and raid the pension fund because they can tell themselves, oh, the province is going to take care of the workers. Don't worry, the province is we can enrich ourselves because the province will step in and protect the work. I don't know if that can actually happen accounting-wise in a legal way, but, there's absolutely no excuse for a company that offers its employees this type of pension plan not to ensure that they're actually going to get at retirement what they've been promised for decades.
Or would the answer be a simple bailout if this were to happen to a specific company, the way that the government would take care of a dairy farmer or somebody in the auto industry? And that's the only thing I could think is, do we want to protect everybody?
They didn't do anything for the Sears people. I got a text message. My neighbor worked there for 25 years. He lost his pension.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine if, we talk about how people don't save enough for retirement. So these people, they're either they're paying into their pension, plus they're getting the top off from the company. They think they're doing the right thing. And then that happens. I can't imagine. And I think that's wrong.
Well, it's eventually, I think the problem is going to take care of itself because so few companies offer that type of pension anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of them are either they don't offer pensions to begin with, they've phased out the guaranteed benefit, or they even here at Bell,
Defined benefits to defined contributions.
Yeah, so now that's what we've gone to.
Yeah. Okay, guys, let's talk about another Quebec government issue. Sonia Lebel, the Justice Minister, is eyeing data laws with more teeth. And she looks towards Europe. Europe's got some substantial legislation they brought in at the beginning of 2019 when it comes to how companies treat your data. She says people should have the ability to very easily tell a company, delete everything you have on me. Okay? You guys think that she's got a point here and they should move forward with something like this? Do we need more data protection?
Absolutely, I think we do. I think we see it. Facebook, companies like Facebook are actually being held accountable in the European Union in ways that they can't be in America, and then they get slapped with a $5 billion fine.
Why shouldn't you just be accountable to delete Facebook and not use it if you don't want to deal with that stuff? Why shouldn't it be on the user? You don't want to have your privacy you don't want to have companies with your personal data. Well, don't use the services.
I mean, I guess you make a point, but do you really see all our moms erasing Facebook? I think there are a lot of people who don't know how to use the app properly or don't know how, or maybe are being taken advantage of by using that app and didn't know what they were getting into. And I think that's a huge part of it. The idea that you are being so influenced by what you see on Facebook. And I'm sorry to leave it just at Facebook. I know that Google, there's a major issue with Google as well.
It's every company.
Right.
I'm kind of more worried about these moderate sized companies.
Like who?
All of these little services you sign up for, right? You don't just give your email address to Google and Facebook. Think of all the companies you sign up for this, you sign up that, you create an account on an online retailer. You add those up. There's things that fall through the crack, So I'm more worried about those places than the big behemoths like Google and Facebook, because I know what's happening with Google and Facebook.
Is it fair to say that we all, as a society, didn't know what we were getting into when we signed up for all of these things?
Wild West.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think just on that, it would be nice to have a little hand in getting out of it.
We also didn't know what logarithms could do and how they can collect data, and all of a sudden, we're... Cambridge Analytica knows every single thing about us.
Right. Yeah. And tells us who to vote for by influencing us.
Yeah,
exactly.
By sending only certain types of stories into a news feed. That I think is coming to us all as a real shock. I'm glad that Quebec is looking at this. I think it's sorely needed. I think it's laughable that the province thinks it can go alone on this. I think this is the nationalism, and the CAQ is telling it to be proactive. So what I
California
suggest is,
did it. California did it.
I understand, but look at the size of the population of California. I think that what Quebec should do is basically adopt the European Union rules, because that would make it easier. Because can you imagine Quebec wagging its finger at Google and saying, you have to change just for us to meet our specifics? When we get around to it.
I totally can, because when I tried to buy the TV that I really wanted, it was not available in Quebec because the box was in English. So yes, I guess they can get away with it, right?
Yeah.
But I guess on that end, when I think about Quebec doing this on its own, the federal government does need to stand up and need to do something. I've always said that the Justin Trudeau Liberals are too cozy with Silicon Valley companies. I felt they're very close with Facebook, and they're too close. It rubs me the wrong way.
Probably helped them get elected too, though.
Yeah, probably helps them get elected too. And here's the thing: can you just imagine? This is you think about all the laws that the CAQ government, they've invoked closure, right? They use, we're using the buyout. That's it. It's over. Imagine a law on data privacy. You think they would invoke closure with Google and Facebook and Amazon at a parliamentary committee? They'd never do it. You know what I mean?
we find out the Premier's search history.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Well, his Facebook fans are on his side, as we all know. Okay, guys, listen. Last night was a big night. I think we were all tuned to the TV sets, watching the results come in, trying to see who would win. Listen, it was a really, really exciting moment last night. I was watching my TV when it happened, when we got the results. So let's have a listen to what I think the biggest news of last night.
And to have the privilege of making this decision, the best in show goes to the Standard Pool.
Yes! Yes!
Siba takes it all.
4-year-old Siba, your 2020 best in show.
I had a feeling he would like
Yes!
Fifth time the Standard Poodle has won best in show. 2020 belongs to Siba, the Standard Poodle.
Now, we all know that Daniel, the golden retriever, got robbed. Did you see this golden retriever? It's the most beautiful dog you've ever seen. Standard poodles, by the way they shave them and cut their hair, these are ugly dogs. They keep winning 5 times. The golden retriever has never, ever won best in show. And they are the best dogs. So with that in mind, if America is not ready for a golden retriever as best in show, could they ever be ready for a socialist as president with Bernie Sanders winning in New Hampshire last night?
There's a lot to unpack there, isn't there, Trudie? Sorry, it was C. Buttigieg, right?
Buttigieg
was the name of the dog? No, that was no. I'm
yeah,
confused.
that's right. What is it, Suba?
Siba.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how to answer that question.
It's a great question.
A golden retriever defines America.
Yeah.
Right? It
and
is
it can't
America.
win. And it can't win.
Well, that says something, doesn't it? The average American just can't win these days, Elias.
Yeah.
It's got to go to those elitist poodles.
That's right. But that's right. It's like it's an oligarchy for dogs.
Let me tell you, I was on vacation last week. I was in the Caribbean, and unlike most of the vacations I've been on down there, where it's ram-packed with Canadians, this was basically an exclusively American resort, and the majority of those Americans were from red states. I was very smart to not get into politics with anyone, but a couple of times, a couple of couples approached us and asked us, "So, what do you think of our president?" One of the couples was from Kansas, and when I
Kansas or Missouri, Kansas?
Kansas.
Okay, yeah.
And we joked about that though. And one of the when I responded diplomatically, at least I thought I did. Well, I'm not a huge fan, and they said, "Yeah, we can't believe him every time he opens his mouth. It drives us crazy. It's so unpresidential. But we voted for him, and we'll vote for him again." And the other couple I met, which was from Omaha, Nebraska, very similar conversation. What do you think of Donald Trump? And they said they couldn't stand him. That they're lifelong Republicans and they hate everything about him and they couldn't vote for him, but you should see my 401k. Yeah. And when I mentioned Bernard Sanders, it was as if I had started talking about the devil incarnate.
Yes.
They are so terrified of what seems just normal to us. And I think a lot of Americans really believe that with a little bit of hard work, they can all be the next Steve Jobs or Sam Walton. And the truth of the matter is they're going to max out at a lot less than a couple of $1 billion a year. The people that are going to be affected by a Sanders tax raise are not the working class. They are the highest of the high. And I don't know the exact number, but how many Americans make $10 million a year? How many? It cannot, I think it was 50,000 or 75,000. The greatest scam that's being pulled off in America right now is the amount of people that are standing up for the ultra rich. And because of that, I fear that Bernie Sanders doesn't have a chance.
Well, I hate having to peer into political crystal balls because I don't understand politics. I don't understand how anyone in good conscience could have cast a vote for Donald Trump. So I obviously don't understand politics, particularly American politics, very well. I think that you have to remember that for all his kind of Vermont folksy ways and common man persona, Bernie Sanders has some ideas that would be considered even radical here in Canada.
Like what?
In Quebec. Free tuition. You know,
it was not so radical. There were hundreds of thousands on the streets.
Yeah, did they get it?
For it? They got a lot of what they wanted.
No,
they brought down the government.
Actually, no. Well, they might have brought down a government, but they got tuition increases, and not very long after the Maple Spring. So. I think we have to understand that I think there's some justifiable fear about how far he would go if he were to take power. I love Bernie Sanders. He's the guy I'm rooting for, although Buttigieg is coming up fast.
Although a little place called South Carolina is going to do a big dent.
Buttigieg doesn't have much support amongst the African Americans, and that'll be evident when they move into states where African Americans live.
So I guess you look at when they have the hypothetical polling and they're like, this Democratic candidate versus Trump, right? And they show, Biden would beat Trump. And then after Biden, Bernie would beat Trump, right? And it's by a decent portion, like 8 points in this hypothetical polling, right?
Which they need.
Bernie versus Trump. But then you talk to people like, no, it would never happen. What's the disconnect that the polling says that Bernie would beat Trump, and then you talk to Americans, they're like, no.
It's the same way that we saw the split of in Ontario, let's say 55% of Canadians would vote Liberal versus, and I'm taking away the NDP, but 55 to 45, let's say, whereas in Alberta, it was 90 to 10 for the Conservatives. I think that's what you're seeing. In red states, in Republican strong Trump states, the thought of Bernie Sanders is much more terrifying than Donald Trump.
By the way, on this show, we will go to the States twice. One to speak to our man on politics south of the border, and 11:30, we'll go to the New York Times reporter who covered the Westminster Dog Show. That's right. Daniel the Golden Retriever was robbed, by the way. Dave Kaufman.
So was Bernie.
Trudie Mason, thanks so much for coming on the show.